You picked up your phone today and read something a stranger decided you should see. Then you answered a message you didn't start. That's the shape of your day. Something arrives, you respond. Here's the line this video is about. Nothing happens to you. It happens from you. And I know how that sounds. It sounds like what people say right before they tell you your worst year was your own fault. That's not this. I'll draw that line properly in a few minutes, and I'll draw it harder than you're expecting, because there's a test. It takes 60 seconds, and it's uncomfortable in a very specific way. You're going to take yesterday, an ordinary yesterday, and find out how much of it you started. You probably already suspect the answer. The exercise is to actually count it. And then a book from 1908 makes a distinction that explains exactly why. And it isn't the sentence everyone quotes from it. Do it now, because it takes a minute and you can't unsee the result. Take yesterday. Not a dramatic day. Yesterday. Say out loud 5 things you actually did. Not what you meant to do, what occupied you. Now go through them one at a time and ask one question about each. Did this start in me, or did it arrive? The email you answered arrived. The meeting arrived. The argument arrived. Someone said something and you returned it. The scrolling arrived. Delivered to you by a system built to deliver it. The thing you worried about on the drive home arrived. It was put in your head by a headline, or a comment, or a bill. Now count the other kind. Things that existed yesterday only because you decided they would, and that nobody was waiting on. Most people, done honestly, get one. Often it's the gym. Plenty of people get 0. And that isn't laziness, so don't take it as that. You might have worked 11 hours yesterday. Busy is not the opposite of this. You can be exhausted and have originated nothing. In fact, exhaustion is the usual sign, because returning other people's serves all day is the most tiring way there is to spend a life. Here's the word for it: a relay. Things enter you and things leave you, and they are the same things, slightly warmed. Whatever number you got, keep it. That's your audit. Quick, and it is the point of the video. Nobody asked you to subscribe. There's no notification for it, nobody's waiting on it, and nothing bad happens if you don't. Which makes it one of the very few things available to you in the next 10 seconds that would start with you. Take the 2 seconds, treat it as a rehearsal. Now the line I promised, and I'd rather draw it early than late. It happens from you does not mean you caused the things that were done to you. You did not manifest a redundancy. You did not attract an illness. A child does not author what happens in their house. If somebody hurt you, that came from them, from their chain, not yours. And any philosophy that hands you the bill for it isn't a philosophy. It's a way of making comfortable people feel safer around other people's suffering. So here is the narrower claim, and it's the only one I'll build on for the rest of this video. An enormous share of your day is not that. It isn't tragedy and it isn't fate. It's ordinary, low stakes, and entirely reversible. And it still isn't yours. Nobody did it to you. It arrived, you handled it, and you called that living. The tragedies are rare. The relay is daily. This is about the daily part, which is conveniently the part you can actually reach. So let's get precise, because you create your reality is a bumper sticker, and it explains nothing. In 1908, 3 anonymous authors in Chicago published a book called The Kybalion. Almost everyone now agrees at least one of them was William Walker Atkinson, a lawyer turned publisher. He never confirmed it. Its 6th principle is cause and effect, and buried in that chapter is a distinction almost nobody quotes, which is a shame because it's the useful part. The book says, no thing ever causes or creates another thing. Cause and effect deals merely with events, and then it defines the word plainly. An event is that which comes, arrives, or happens as a result or consequent of some preceding event. Read that twice. Nothing is happening to you because you are not a thing being struck by other things. You are standing inside a chain of events, and every event in it arrived as the consequence of an earlier one, which changes the question completely. The question was never whether you're in the chain. You are, and so is everyone who has ever irritated you. The question is whether you're a link that only passes things along, or a link where something new enters. That's what from you means, not that you cause everything, that something starts here. The same chapter has a line that reads like a throwaway and isn't. There is always a cause and a because to every event. Cause and because are two different things. The cause is what made it happen. The because is the story you tell about why. You have a complete set of becauses. You're tired because of work. You didn't call because you've been busy. You're not doing the thing because the timing is wrong. Every one of those can be true, and not one of them is a cause. Here's the second 60 seconds of work, and this is the one that stings. Pick an opinion you've expressed in the last week, something you said with confidence, about the economy, about a public figure, about how a certain kind of person behaves. Now trace it upstream, not whether it's correct. Where did it enter you? A video, a podcast, someone at work, a headline you half read in 2023. The book's description of most people is unkind and about 120 years old, and it lands. They are swayed by the opinions, customs, and thoughts of the outside world, and also by their emotions, feelings, moods. Swayed, not persuaded, swayed, moved by weight from outside. And if you couldn't find where your own opinion entered you, that isn't a small thing, because that opinion is going to leave you today and enter somebody else. And you'll deliver it in your own voice, as though it started with you. Now the cost, but because a relay life doesn't feel like a crisis, it feels fine. That's the problem. It runs on momentum that isn't yours. The job you have was mostly offered rather than chosen. The city was mostly proximity. Your friends are largely the people who happen to be nearby during one particular 2-year window. Your opinions came from a feed that has been optimized for a decade to keep you responding. None of that is a disaster. Every single one of them was reasonable at the time. That is exactly how it accumulates. And then there's a specific evening somewhere in your 30s. And if you've had it, you know the one I mean, where you look at your life and it isn't bad and it doesn't fit. The confusing part isn't that something went wrong. Nothing went wrong. It's that you can't find the decision. You go looking for the moment you chose this, and there isn't one, because there wasn't one. There was a long chain of reasonable responses to things that arrived. That's what a relay life produces, not failure, drift with a decent CV. And the reason it gets harder to fix as you go is that the momentum grows and every piece of it is defensible, which is why the move is not a big decision. Big decisions are what people reach for at exactly that point. And a big decision made from that position is usually just a louder reaction. The move is much smaller than that, and it starts today. So here it is. If you take one thing out of this video, take this: one unprompted act a day. That's the method. I call it going upstream. One step above the place where your day gets decided for you. 3 rules, and each one is doing work. 1, nobody asked for it. If anyone is expecting it, waiting on it, or would notice it missing, it doesn't count. Not the gym you already committed to, not the task that's on the list. Nobody asked. 2, it has to leave you. This is the rule people skip. And it's the one that makes it real. A thought doesn't count. A plan doesn't count. Writing it in a notebook doesn't count. It has to become an event for somebody else, a message that lands, work delivered, an offer made, a thing that exists in the world after you've stopped. The book's own definition was that which comes, arrives, or happens. For it to be an event, it has to arrive somewhere. 3, small, and at the same time every day. 10 minutes, not a project, Projects are how people turn this into one more thing they're behind on. What it actually looks like, the message to somebody who isn't waiting to hear from you, the version of the thing you send before it's asked for, the question asked first in the meeting before the room's opinion has set, the invitation that nobody was ever going to send. 10 minutes, once a day, and the reason it works has nothing to do with confidence or self-esteem. It's mechanical. Each one of those acts puts you upstream in somebody else's chain of causes. And what comes back, the reply, the offer, the friendship, the work, arrives weeks later from outside, looking exactly like luck. That is the sentence the whole book is building toward, and it's in the final chapter. The wise ones, it says, use the principle of cause and effect instead of being used by it. 2 more lines, and then the limits. The first is the best image in the book, and it's a correction to the way this genre usually talks. The Kybalion does not say the wise man escapes the current. It says, just as does the skilled swimmer turn this way and that way, going and coming as he will, instead of being as the log which is carried here and there, so is the wise man as compared to the ordinary man, and yet both swimmer and log, wise man and fool, are subject to law. Both are in the water. Nobody gets out of the river. Nobody stops being caused. The entire difference is whether anything originates with you while you're in it. And the second, which the book quotes from older writers, the further the creation is from the center, the more it is bound. The nearer the center it reaches, the nearer free is it. I'm going to give you my reading of that and label it as mine, because the book doesn't spell it out. The center is wherever the initiating happens. Every day you spend entirely in response, you drift a little further out, more bound, more determined by things that started somewhere else. Every unprompted act pulls you back in slightly. That's my inference, and you should hold it as mine, not as the book's authority. Now the limits. There are 3. The first I've drawn already, and I'll draw it again because it's the one that gets misused. This does not apply to what genuinely happened to you. Grief, illness, somebody else's cruelty, the year that took something from you. Those are not relay failures, and you do not run this audit on them. The second, if the reason nothing starts in you is that nothing feels worth starting, and if that's been true for months rather than days, if you've stopped wanting things you used to want, if you're sleeping badly and eating badly and it stopped feeling like a phase, that is not a philosophy problem, and one unprompted act a day will not touch it. That's a medical situation and it responds to medical help. Talk to a doctor and tell one person who is actually in your life. I'm saying it plainly because most people watching this are men in their 30s and 40s, and we will redesign an entire morning routine to avoid one honest conversation. The third limit is smaller and more honest. Doing this for a week will not change your life. It will change exactly one measurable thing. How much of your day traces back to you? That's all I'm claiming, and I'd rather it be true than large. 2 things, and then I'll leave you alone. 1. Run the audit on yesterday properly. Out loud 5 things, sorted honestly. Write the number down. That number is your baseline, and it's the only measurement in this video. 2. 7 days. 1 unprompted act a day, written down after you've done it. 1 line, what it was and who it reached. Not a journal, a ledger. At the end of the week, read the 7 lines. You'll notice something the audit can't show you. The ones that cost you the least effort are almost always the ones nobody would ever have asked for. That's the direction to walk in. And you'll know it's working when something arrives that you can trace. In a couple of weeks, a reply or an opportunity or a conversation is going to turn up in your life and feel like chance. And you'll be able to point at the Tuesday it started on. And it will be a Tuesday you started. Nothing arrives from nowhere. The book got that right in 1908, and it wasn't the first to notice. But you've been reading that as a sentence about fate, and it isn't. It's a sentence about position. Everything that reaches you came from somewhere upstream. And the only real question in your life is how often that somewhere is you. Today, once, 10 minutes, something that leaves you and arrives somewhere else, that nobody asked for. If you do it, Put one word in the comments. Upstream. I read them, and I want to see how many of these happen today, rather than in the version of your life that starts on Monday. And if this landed, cause and effect is one of 7 principles in that book, and I've walked through all 7 in another video. The other 6 are running in your life on exactly these terms right now. You didn't consent to those either.